Yeah, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
You can hear me? Okay. But I'm not able to get the audio link clear. Yeah, kindly come in the video mode. Kindly come in the video mode, all of you. We have 12 people. We'll start the class. Okay. So we'll start with yesterday in my previous class, I did mention to you that what is risk and why is it important that we have to study risk. Next, we also went on to classify the risk into various aspects. So this is what we have done yesterday. I think a lot of things that were said yesterday were all repeated from your previous semester itself. So I believe you are able to recall all those things that we have discussed as far as risk is concerned. But today we are going one step forward in trying to find out not only the financial risk, but we are trying to find out everything that wherever we can face risk. It need not be only in financial terms, it could be in terms of theft, it could be in terms of loss of your data, it could be in terms of loss of your physical assets, loss of your human assets. So we are not restricting our concept of risk management only to financial losses, but we are also taking into consideration the overall aspect of how risk is going to affect the entire organization. So I'll just brief up on whatever the introduction part. So you can read it from the screen. Risk is virtually anything that threatens or limits the ability of a community or a non-profit organization to achieve its mission. So basically, anything that comes in the way of your achieving objectives, that is what we call as risk. So it could be expected, it could be unexpected. Okay. Many a times you might have seen, especially the second point that I mentioned here, third point that I mentioned here, wiping away all your computer files. Some of the viruses that get into your system will wipe away your computer data, everything. So if this can happen to you, the same can also happen to a company. And one of the major threats that all companies today that are facing is not the risk of loss in business, but one of the major threats that the bigger companies are facing is the cyber security, or in terms of cyber threats that these companies are facing. So how do you confront such threats is what we have to understand as far as the concept of risk management is concerned. So if you look at various scenarios, you can face risk in terms of unexpected events or unprecedented events. In terms of I've just given an example of wiping away all your data, loss of funds due to theft, injury to a member, okay, or anything that can happen or damage to your organization will definitely have a major impact as far as your business is concerned. So what we have to understand here is it is very important that we do not neglect the concept of risk. Because if you neglect the concept of risk, then it's going to be very, very difficult to understand how do we understand, or how do we use the concept of risk here. So basically risk is faced from all directions for an organization. It need not only be financial risk, it could be risk in any of the terms. So let us go to the concept of what do you mean by risk management. So risk management basically, just mark these words, is a process of thinking systematically about all possible risks that you can face. You might have not faced any situation prior, but you have to imagine a situation that if such and such a thing happens, what could be the potential impact of this on your company, right? That is what we call as systematically thinking about all possible risks. Remember, I'm using the word possible. That means these events have not yet happened, but they could happen. For example, you have seen this COVID situation. Nobody ever thought in India that our country will run out of oxygen, liquid oxygen that is necessary for hospitals. Nobody thought that. But today we are seeing across India that all the hospitals are today facing a problem because they don't have liquid oxygen for giving it to patients. So that is a major problem that we are facing as far as this particular crisis is concerned. Why? Because we did not consider all the possible risks that could arise because of COVID. Right? So this is what I'm trying to tell you, that whenever you are talking about risk management, you have to imagine what could be the most worst thing that can ever happen to you, and based on that, you have to plan your activity. Okay, so it could be problems, it could be disaster. Okay, and what you have to do is you have to set up a procedure how to tackle this. So that is what we are trying to understand. How to set up a system or how to set up a procedure to avoid or to tackle this particular risk. That is what we call as risk management. And the whole idea is basically you want to avoid it. If you cannot avoid, can you minimize it? Are you in a position to cope up with that particular risk, or do you want to outsource that particular risk? So that is what we are going to talk about, the entire model of risk management. Here, so it's basically setting up a process that can identify the risk and set up a strategy to control it or deal with it. Or it also talks about the realistic evaluation of the true level of risk. So that is what we have to understand by the word risk management. Next, we come to the concept of what do you mean by uncertainty. Uncertainty means there is no guarantee that a particular thing will happen or it may not happen. So it is a situation where the current stage of knowledge is such that the order or nature of things is unknown. So basically, you don't know what is going to happen. So when you don't know what is going to happen, you always face a concept, you always face a situation, and that particular situation is called as a situation of uncertainty. Are you able to get it? So it is a situation of unknowns. You don't know what is the consequence of that particular unknown thing. You don't know what is the size or magnitude of that thing, and you don't know what will happen of it. When such a situation is faced, you are facing a problem of uncertainty. So you need to understand what do you mean by this and what do you mean by uncertainty. Next, as we said, I have discussed this in my yesterday's class. I will not repeat it again. We have discussed what do you mean by systematic risk and what do you mean by unsystematic risk. Right? Systematic risk is a risk wherein everyone is going to face a loss, irrespective of whether you have planned it or not. And unsystematic risk is that particular risk which you have failed to plan, and that is where we call it as a situation of unsystematic risk. Now, one of the major factors that we have seen for causing of unsystematic risk is, in terms of economic or in terms of financial aspects, you have not catered to your competition. So who is your competitor? You have not checked who is your competitor. You have not checked your consumer perception or his lifestyle. You have not checked the population changes that are happening, government rules and regulations, and inflationary situation. This is with respect to your company. You have not done your homework. Others might have done their homework, but you have not done their homework, and you have not done your homework, and that is the reason you face this particular risk. And this risk, we call it as an economic risk because of your failure to anticipate changes. The next thing that we have to understand as far as unsystematic risk is certain natural risks that we have to understand. Have you taken what would happen if there are floods? What happens if there are hurricanes, fire, lightning, earthquakes? What would you do? Do you have a backup plan? Is what we have to understand. And last one that we have to understand is, which is the major reason why most of the risks caused is because of human error. So human error or human risk can be faced in a company because of theft. You might have been heard some situations wherein the employees of the company itself engage themselves into certain thefts in the company itself. Next, injury to the job, unnecessary creating damages to the machine in order to see that the work does not get happen. That is also a human factor. Bad checks means not doing a thorough inspection of your products and your processes. Human negligence and human error. So point number 4 and 5 talks about negligence, and point number 6 talks about incompetence. Or in India, we have this attitude called as the Chalta Hai attitude. No. So that Chalta Hai attitude becomes a major disaster if things are not taken into consideration. So this is what we have to understand as far as the various formats of risk. Next, we have to understand how do we handle this particular risk. Now, once we know what is the risk that we are going to face, it is our duty to establish or to ensure what are the ways by which we can handle this particular risk. First and foremost thing is avoid that particular risk. When you know that a certain damage is likely to be caused because of a particular thing, the best thing is avoid that particular thing. So try to avoid those processes, try to avoid those activities, try to avoid those events, or try to avoid those experiments wherein you anticipate that there is a high chance of me facing a risk. In such cases, better avoid. Okay, there might be a situation wherein you cannot avoid it. So if you cannot avoid it, the next thing is, can you control that particular risk? Right? Can you control that particular risk? Can you ensure that you face lesser amount of risk? I'll give you a very simple example. All of you know that it is very common that road accidents happen. It's a very common phenomenon. Can you avoid it? No, you cannot avoid it. Can you say that I will ride with my bike or I will ride my car on that particular day when there are no accidents in the entire world? That day is never going to come. So you cannot avoid that particular day. Can you control that particular thing? Yes, you can definitely control that particular risk. For example, if you're riding a bike, the first and foremost thing is please wear a helmet. That is how you can control the risk. If you're driving a car, wear a seat belt. See that there are airbags in your car. See that you don't drive at a very high speed. See that there are no explosives in your car. So these are the ways by which you can control the risk. So these things are in your hand. But in spite of doing all these things, if you are still, you cannot avoid that particular risk, you are not able to control that particular risk. In such case, the most simple thing is, can you transfer this particular risk to somebody else? So when I mean the word transfer, I'm basically talking about when you cannot handle this particular risk. Best thing is transfer this risk to a company, and this company is called as an insurance company. So this thing is, it's an insurance company. So transfer this risk to the insurance company by paying a certain amount of money to that insurance company, and the insurance company will bear that entire risk. That is the reason you take an insurance for your two-wheeler, four-wheeler. You take insurance for your life, right? Some things you can avoid, some things you can control. But if you are not able to do it, then what do? The best thing is you transfer this particular risk. And when you transfer this particular risk, there is a third party, we call it as an insurance company. This insurance company will accept a certain small amount of money from you on a regular basis and will act as a guarantor that in case something goes wrong, we are there to compensate your loss. So that is the meaning of the word risk transfer. The next thing is, can you avoid the losses? When you know that you are going to face a loss and it is inevitable that you are going to face a loss, can you make some effort from your side to reduce this particular loss? You will definitely face a loss, no doubt, but instead of facing 10,000 rupees as a loss, if I am able to save 4,000 rupees, I can only pay 6,000 rupees of loss. That is what we call as loss reduction. I know you cannot run away from loss, but can you reduce this particular loss? So in order to reduce this particular loss, many companies today involve themselves into some activities, and the word that is used here is called hedging activities. They try to reduce their loss. Next is, they have a concept called as segregation of exposures. In your company, you might have seen, wherever you have done your projects, you might have seen, there are a lot of assets that are available in the company, in terms of physical assets, in terms of financial assets, in terms of intangible assets, right? So there are a lot of assets that your company might be having. So when this company is having a lot of assets, all these assets are exposed to a certain type of risk. One or the other type of risk, the company is definitely going to get exposed to. Now, you have to do a priority listing. Where is that particular area where I'm going to face the maximum risk? So probably I'm going to face the maximum risk in my physical assets because I have heavily invested in my plant and machinery. My machinery is very costly. And in case if there is a lockdown or in case there is some major problem with my machinery, my work will get hampered. And if my work gets hampered, definitely I will make a loss. So what do? You segregate your exposures. These are your risks that you are facing. You are facing a risk in terms of physical assets. You are facing a risk in terms of financial assets. You are facing a risk in terms of intangible assets. So in all these three things, you have to segregate which is the first priority, which is the second, and which is the third. So when you do this, you come to a conclusion, where is that particular area where you face the maximum amount of loss? And depending on that particular situation, you may take appropriate actions. Appropriate actions might be something somewhere here. If you can control it, well and good. If you cannot control it, can you transfer it? Best thing is avoid it. Right? So this is what we call as the word segregation of exposure. So you spread your risk. Okay, it's something like, do not keep your eggs in one basket. If I have to recall something from your third semester, I can say that don't invest all your money only in one share, because if one share goes down, you lose all your money. Best thing is spread your investment into various avenues so that your risk gets spread. So the same thing logic gets applied to a company also who is engaged in this particular business. Next is the concept called as duplication of resources. Duplication of resources, I think you have experienced this in your life in one way or the other. Suppose you have gone to some presentation, to do some presentation, you put on your pen drive and immediately come to know that the pen drive is not getting detected. Or the file is not opening in that particular system. All of a sudden you get panicked. The reason is you have not created a duplicate resource out of it. So when you know that the pen drive is not working, it is always better you carry a CD with you. If not a pen drive, at least the CD will work. If not CD, at least it is there in my Gmail. If not Gmail, it is there in my WhatsApp. So create multiple resources or create duplication of resources so that if one fails, something else is there. The second one fails, third is there. So this is where most of the companies feel that they are wasting money by duplication of resources. But let me tell you that today banks are investing heavily in duplication of resources because they know that if they face a risk in one situation, there is some other resource by which they can handle. I'll give you an example. What happened when there were floods in Mumbai. All of you know that Mumbai is the financial capital of India, and all the major banks have their head offices, including data centers in Mumbai. During the heavy floods in Mumbai that happened a few years ago, the servers which were kept in those particular buildings went underwater because the water level in the sea level and the water level in that particular city increased to a very high level. So all the servers, the data center, all the servers that were kept in the ground floor of the basements were completely undercover. And naturally, when your data center is underwater, you cannot run the system. So many banks had this particular problem. They did not know how to start the bank because if your systems does not start, what is the use of coming to the bank? So that was the time when they came to know that we have to create duplicate servers or we have to create duplicate data centers. So if they know that Mumbai is going to face a problem, they created a data center in Chennai. If Chennai has floods, Mumbai acts as a data center. If Mumbai acts as a data center, they created a third data center somewhere in Noida, near Delhi. All this is nothing but they have created duplication of resources. Why? For the simple reason that if one system fails, you always need to have another system. This common phenomena you might have observed in all the major airlines of India, all the major airlines of the world. A good passenger airline, something aircraft manufactured by Boeing or Airbus Industries, always has a concept called as it runs on certain computers. Now there is no one computer that controls the entire flight. There are 5 computers which control the flight. The reason is very simple. At that particular speed and at that particular height, suppose if one computer fails, you should always have a second one. If the second fails, the third will have. The third fails, the fourth will have, and the fourth fails, the fifth is there. So at least one system will continuously work to see to it that the aircraft is getting land. They will ensure that the aircraft lands safely and passengers are safe. Why do they do this? It's just to avoid risk. And what they have done, they have duplicated their resources. So instead of one computer, they have fixed 5 computers on an airplane. Why? It is just to avoid risk. So that is what we call as duplication of risk. And next is, as far as possible, try to restrict yourself, refrain yourself from entering into any high risk prone areas. So that is what we call as, the word called as self retention. You know that you are going to face a risk potentially, don't venture out. Now, for example, if I have to give you today's example, there is a high risk of venturing out that you may get in contact with some infected person as far as COVID is concerned. Best thing is retain yourself or refrain yourself from venturing out into the open market. If it is unavoidable, you have to go. But when you're going out, see that you cover your face, you take your protection and go. What is this? We call it as self-retention techniques. If you cannot avoid it, then you have to retain, you have to control yourself to ensure that you handle this particular risk. Clear? So these are the simple methods that we have to understand as far as methods of handling risk is concerned. Next, we come to the process of risk management. Now, you can just go through it, but before we go through it, I want to just show you an image. And when you go through this particular image, you will be able to identify what is the risk management process. From your exam perspective, this is a very important question. I'll just mark it here so that you can take a note of it. This is a very important question. Explain the risk management process. Right? So the risk management process basically starts with identifying the risk. Okay, you have to ask these questions. What can happen? How can it happen? And when will it happen? You have to answer these questions for yourself. That is where you can understand that you are identifying a risk. If you are not able to identify this risk, consult somebody else who is a risk management expert. So consult him, he will tell you what are the different ways in which you can experience risk. So that is what we call as consult and communicate. And next is, if a particular event is happening on regular basis, please have a review of that particular event. So that is what we call as risk identification. Next is, once you have identified the risk, the next task will definitely be you analyze the risk. Okay, what you have to analyze here, how many times this risk is happening or how many times this particular event is happening. And once this event happens, what is the effect of this particular event on other things? So what are the consequences of this? So first is likelihood, that means occurrence. And second is you talk about what will be the effect of this on a particular event. And based on that, you establish the level of risk. You can classify whether the risk is of high magnitude, a medium magnitude, or a low magnitude. Depending on that, you can classify the risk. And once you have done that, we have to evaluate that particular risk. Okay, when you say evaluate, see whether you can reduce this particular risk, whether you can avoid this particular risk. If you are unable to avoid it, can you control it? And if you are not able to control it, can you transfer this risk to somebody else? And that is where we call it the insurance companies to come into. So this is how the entire risk management process actually works out. Here, so this diagram I will give it to you. You can have a look at this particular. Now, whatever I have explained you in the previous slide, the same things are available. Only it is available in the text format. First, as I said, identify the risk. Identify what are the causes for that particular risk. Identify what are the control mechanisms by which you can control this particular risk. Estimate how many times, likelihood means how many times this particular risk is happening. And once this particular event happens, what is the effect of this event on other things? Okay, establish the consequence of this particular likelihood and then do your rating parameters. Whether this risk is of high magnitude, whether this risk is of medium magnitude, or whether this risk is of low magnitude. Depending on that, you have to allocate resources, you have to allocate people, you have to allocate money to see to it that if tomorrow if you face a loss in these areas, what are the ways by which you can handle it. So that is the reason we have the risk management process. Okay. Now, here we are trying to identify the concept called as risk identification. What I want you to do is, I'll give you 2 minutes. Kindly go through these 4 points and I'll explain to you with an example. Just go through this particular 4 points first. Any doubts in this? Have you gone through this? USA number 3. Can you tell me this particular? Can you explain me this particular 2 points first? USA number 3. Who is USA number 3? And when you are please come in the video mode, I want to see who is this USA number 3.
Yes, sir.
Now, can you explain me point number 1 and 2? Who is USA number 3?
It's Akshata, sir.
Akshata, can you explain me this? Please come in the
Yes,
video
sir.
mode. Yeah. Can you please explain me point number 1 and 2?
Analyze past claims experience and determine categories or types of losses that you had. Yeah, go on, Akshata. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you explain? You have read it, but can you explain me?
So we should identify the problem, whatever we had in past particular.
I'm interested. Can you give me an example for this? How to identify that there is a risk in whatever I do? Can you give me a simple example? Okay, USA number 24. Can you give me an example? Who is USA number 24?
Some Runali.
Murali, can you tell me?
So that first point says that we need to analyze, we need to identify the past experience. Like the example.
Okay. No, but
I'm not getting it now. So I need to think.
I'll just give an example so that you'll be able to understand. All of you have two-wheelers.
Yes.
Okay. Now, when you go for your insurance renewal, every year, what does the insurance company check? They will check in the past. How many times have you met with an accident? Or if you have met with an accident, how many times have you claimed the insurance money? So they are trying to find out, are you a risky driver or are you a safe driver? That is what the company tries to find out. And how will they know it? They will only know it depending on how many times your vehicle has met with an accident, how many times was there a major repairs for your vehicle, how many times have you applied for insurance and how many times was the claim given to you. So what they have done, they have analyzed past data. And why have they analyzed the past data? To identify what type of driver you are. And once you know what type of a driver you are, the company will know whether they should take risk on your vehicle or whether they should give you insurance or whether they should not give you insurance. So what they have done, they have identified your driving skills, or they have identified a situation wherein the company will be in a position to tell whether it is worth giving insurance to you or whether it is not worth giving insurance to you. And who decides this? It is decided by the insurance company. Now, insurance company does not do this all of its own. What do? They have appointed certain agents, and these agents we call it as the third party. The insurance company has appointed certain agents, and those particular agents come. Okay, they inspect your vehicle, they take whatever necessary readings are there from the vehicle, and based on that, they give information to the company. And once the information is given to the company will classify you whether you are a low risk customer, a medium risk customer, and or a high risk customer. Once the insurance companies classifies you into these three categories, they know how much of risk that the insurance company they are going to face, and that is the reason why based on that they can give you the insurance. So this particular concept of risk identification is used especially in terms of whenever you have facilities which have nuclear energy, manufacturing plants, transportation of arteries, natural hazard chemicals. Wherever such areas are there or wherever such activities go on, there they use the services of a third party agency who does the inspection work and classifies the customer on the level of risk. Are you able to understand? So this is what we call as the risk identification mechanism. Next time when you go for your vehicle insurance renewal, please observe that the agent comes or the third party comes, he takes the reading, classifies you on this particular scale and informs the insurance companies. Based on that, the insurance company will sanction the insurance claim. So this is the procedure of how we identify the various levels of risk. Next, we have certain categories of risk. We have financial risk, we have the liability risk, and we have the property risk. Kindly go through these 3 points. Okay, and I'm going to ask this particular question to USA number 41 and 51. You are required to answer this. 41, 51, and 14, 1, 4. Please go through these points. Yeah. Can you please explain me this?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, about financial risks, these are the risks which are not so high.
These are the risks.
So, it is often understood to include only downside risks, sir.
Okay.
Like meaning potential for financial loss and uncertainty about its extent. For an example, we can take liquidity risk, where the entity will not have sufficient funds available to pay the creditors and other debts. Then there will be interest rate risk.
No, that is what we call. See, when you don't have money to pay your credit, that becomes a liability risk.
Yes, sir.
I'm talking about financial.
And it is So financial risk is the possibility of losing money on investments or any business, whatever
No.
the organization take into.
Understand one thing. This is to everyone, not only to her. See, don't have this concept of that you are studying risk management and finance. That means you have to talk only about investment. No, we are talking about many things. What are different ways by which we can incur a loss? See, for example, you have. I'll just give a simple example. Suppose you have purchased one machine from say Punjab, Ludhiana, and the machine is supposed to be transported on a truck from Punjab to Belgaum, and it is going to take around 4 days. In these 4 days, your machinery is going to be on the truck. The truck is exposed to a lot of risk in terms of accidents, in terms of damage, in terms of lockdowns. The transport may not be allowed. In terms, the driver is not in a position to drive that particular. He himself faces some critical injuries. So in such case, your machinery, okay, may not come in time. And because it does not come in time, you have taken an order from your customer to manufacture certain goods, and that machine has not reached. Right? And the machine has not reached, and as a result, you cannot produce those particular goods. In such case, you will incur a loss. So when you incur a loss, you cannot go to the insurance company and say, please give me insurance claim because my machinery did not come in time. No, the insurance company will never cover all these losses. So insurance companies will not cover losses for your fines, for your penalties, for your claims which are not covered under the scope of insurance. When you have called intentional damage, punitive damage means when you have called intentional damage to the machinery, okay, and losses which are not included in the insurance policy. So if you incur any of these financial loss, you cannot claim the money from the insurance company, and as a result, the concept of risk that you're going to face, we call it as a financial risk. Clear? Liability risk, as you have already explained, that liability risk arises when you are not in a position, okay, to fulfill somebody else's credit. That becomes a liability insurance. Another concept of liability insurance in terms of the second point here is, many times you might have seen, you go for purchasing of a asset, and the salesman of that particular company says, "Aap leke jao, mera guarantee hai." I'll give you a guarantee that nothing will happen to the company. And the next day something goes wrong with that particular product, and you go back to the store or you go back to the company and see the product is not working. Right? The company will say that we are not responsible because once goods are sold, we will not take it back. Now you took this particular product on the assurance of the company's employee. So the company's employee did not perform his act, or he performed his job in a negligent way. And as a result, you have to face that particular loss. So that means you took an asset hoping that it will work, but it did not work. Now nobody is ready to replace that particular asset. In such case, the amount of risk that you face is called a liability risk. I hope many of you have experienced this type of risk. In terms of electronic gadgets, in terms of some other items that you have purchased, you purchase it on the name of the employee who sells it, and tomorrow if the employee, if you go back for claim, the company does not honor your claim. So that type of risk is called a liability risk. And last is, of course, the property risk. The property risk is basically physical properties. Okay, certain risks that you have to face are natural risk and man-made risk. So the remaining part of this will cover up in the next class. I'll stop here. I want everyone to come in the video mode. I just want to take a photograph. Quickly come in the video mode.